Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Center of Love. A lot of tears in the audience, and rightfully so. Thank you so much, Naomi, for introducing us, setting us up with that beautiful song, that beautiful rendition. That's moving. So, for those of you who may be new, the Center of Love is a community for people who may not all believe the same things, but who are drawn by a shared spirit of openness, curiosity, and care. We sometimes say that we are like-hearted more than like-minded. We come together not because we all see the world in the same way, but because we want to explore life's biggest questions in good company. And that's you folks. That's the good company right here, this community. At the heart of this community is the practice of coming home to what is most real and most essential in us, to awareness, compassion, truth, and love. And one of the things that makes that possible is our willingness to look honestly at ourselves, not to judge ourselves, not to shame ourselves, but to understand ourselves more deeply. Because the more clearly we can see what is happening within us, the more choice we have in how we live, how we relate, and how we respond. Hi, Kasima. That spirit of self-inquiry is very much in harmony with one of the center's core commitments, which is to know thyself. Again and again, we return to the insight that freedom is not found in pretending we are beyond our wounds, beyond our habits, beyond our conditioning, but in becoming conscious of them. When we can notice our patterns without becoming trapped inside them, something begins to soften, space opens, presence returns. And from that place, we can respond to life with greater wisdom, clarity, and love. And that brings us to today's topic and talk. This morning, Dre will be exploring how our early experiences give rise to inner mini versions of ourselves, parts that continue to shape the way we think, feel, and react long after those original moments have passed. Many of us know what it is like to have a reaction that feels bigger than the moment in front of us. We get triggered, defensive, withdrawn. Maybe we revert back to people pleasing, or we just feel overwhelmed. And part of us may wonder, why am I reacting like this right now? Often what's happening is not just about the present moment. Something older is being stirred. This kind of work can be incredibly powerful because it helps us realize that some of our automatic reactions are not the whole of who we are. They are learned strategies, protective responses, younger parts of self that emerged for good reasons, even if they no longer serve us in the same way. And when we learn to recognize those parts with honesty and compassion, we begin to loosen their grip. We become less identified with the pattern and more rooted in presence. I think that's what makes this topic so incredibly valuable. It's not just about understanding our psychology in an abstract way. It's about becoming more available to life, more available to our relationships, more available to reality as it actually is, instead of as our old conditioning tells us it should be. And from what I understand, Dre will not only be offering insight into how these inner patterns form, but also some practical tools for recognizing them and returning to presence when it matters most, which, as we all know, is usually right in the middle of life. And Dre's a wonderful person to bring us into this conversation. He's a lifelong student who has spent decades exploring personal growth and self-improvement. He wears many hats. He's a singer, a comedian, an Uber driver, and perhaps most dangerously, a cunning linguist in the noble tradition of puns and other forms of wordplay. I don't know if everybody caught my little wordplay there. He's also a founding member of this community, the Center of Love, and he currently serves as our chair. So he's been helping shape this community since day one. And so with that, I will introduce Dre to share his message with us today.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Boy, I have to rehydrate after all this whole experiences. First of all, Naomi, that was such a lovely, 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 lovely rendition. I knew you would like do so good, and you surprised me that you said yes. So thank you. That was a last minute, last second thing. And Dolly, thanks for that wonderful introduction. I think you covered my entire talk. Thank you for coming today. We will be reconvening. Yeah. So, good morning. Who the heck is running your life anyway? It's like, whose line is it anyway? But it's more in depth to who we are and how we show up in the world. And I want you to know right off the bat, you're not broken. You're just programmed, and it's normal. It's this programming that comes from the little ones that live inside of each and every one of us. So, like Ollie asked, I'll ask as well. Have you ever reacted to something and afterwards you thought like, why did I do that? Or why did I say that again? Like, hello, welcome pattern. Welcome to programming. Welcome to automatic, subconscious controlling of our lives. These same situations show up again and we have that same pattern again and it happens again and we go, why did I do that? Well, we know why. We know why because it's part of our life living in emotional Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day. So it's the same life over and over and over again until we choose to change it. And most of it's subconscious. So what do you do about that? Well, one of the things not to do, which is such a common thing, is saying, there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with me? You know, that got ingrained in us from such an early age to think that something is wrong. What's wrong with me? How many times have you heard that? Right? It's like you're crying and your parent comes up. What's the first thing they say?
What's wrong?
What's wrong? What's wrong? We're conditioned to look for what's wrong when there's nothing really wrong, is there? It's just an emotion. But man, oh man, we spend a lot of our energy trying to prevent ourselves from feeling these emotions when they come up. Because they come up at the most inopportune time sometimes, you know, at the grocery store or other areas of the places in life where you're just not now. We have to take that time to be with ourselves and allow those emotions. Yeah, so the epidemic on the planet is what's wrong with me and I'm not enough. Those are probably two of the most biggest plagues that we each individually have to some form and degree or other. But is it true? Is there something wrong with us? Is there something wrong with you? Is there something wrong with me? Can it be easy to feel that way? But once again, it's old programming. With my computer background, you know, I really have looked at how the computer operates and how we operate, and there are so many similarities, so many similarities. And really, the bottom line is we run on subconscious programming that we can't even see. And, you know, as we start to grow from our childhood, um, it started in utero. The programming started in utero. After 5 weeks, the heart starts to form. And anything that your mom felt while you were in her, you felt. There's no separation. There's no difference. Like it's all part of the same thing. So we ingrained that so deeply before we're even born, before we even take our first breath. And then for the first 2 years, all our language is emotional. We don't have logic as little kids. We have that emotion and we make things mean things because that is the way the brain, the subconscious, is designed. We're always trying to figure out one primary thing. Is it safe? Is our world safe? So getting back to in utero, if your mom didn't feel safe, then guaranteed you didn't feel safe. And then let's say she felt safe more often than she didn't feel safe. You would have experienced both. By the time you come out into the planet, then does the world start to reflect back to you whether or not you're safe? Am I safe? It's a huge thing that we're all seeking to achieve, level of safety in a crazy world that we live in now. So when we have these childhood experiences, some are scary, some are painful, some are confusing, some are fun. It's kind of like amusement park Earth. We come here for all the rides, the scary ones included. But as a human, as a spirit for sure, it's fun. But for the human life, you've been there. We're all humans here, as far as last time I checked. We make the meanings of all of the experiences. And if you're 4 years old and you have an experience like I did, for example, going out into the street, bag of chips, these ladies have the babies on the blanket and there's toys and I'm curious and she turns around and says, "Hey, you with the chips, you get out of here." I'm 4 years old, walking the streets on my own, but that's a whole other story. Back in the days when you could do that. But that experience, what did I make that mean? Something's wrong with me. Why am I not wanted? And then that doesn't just stay in childhood. It becomes programs, it becomes beliefs, it becomes inner voices. And it shows up as I'm not safe. So what are the core safety programming things that I've mentioned this before, and the reason why it's important to bring it back is because it's a dangerous tendency, me having done 40 years of personal growth, self-development, to say, yeah, I've heard this before, I know that. Only to realize, I'm not practicing it in my daily life, and this isn't embodied, so yeah, do I know it? Yeah, no, I don't. So I'm bringing it back. About safety. It's not safe. It's not safe to be me. It's not safe for me to desire or want anything. It's not safe for me to ask for what it is that I want. And it sure as heck isn't safe for me to get what I want. Right? If you act out as a child and you get ignored or you get scolded, that program, it's not safe to be me. I can't express myself the way I want to. You want something and you get shut down, well, it's not safe for me to ask for it. You finally get something that you really wanted as a kid, right? You're all happy, that toy, whatever it is, and it gets taken away or it gets used against you, or you're told how to use it or how you cannot use it, whether or not you can bring it over to your friend's house. These experiences don't stay in childhood. They become the committee of mini me's that run your entire life. Mini me. And these experiences, these traumas, get trapped inside our bodies. And they show up years later as pains and aches and disease and illness and non-well-being. So they're very powerful. So then you grow up, you got all these adult situations you gotta live with and experience and go through. You get in a relationship, boy, that triggers all kinds of stuff, doesn't it? Yeah. once again, then it's two adult children having a relationship together. And it shows up in relationship, it shows up in money, it shows up in confidence, it shows up in where you work, it shows up everywhere because it follows you around. Because these kids, man, you know, if you've ever had real kids, you know what, like they follow you around when they're little, and then they try to get away from you when they're older. But you know, we come up with these adult situations and we think we're making choices, logical, the best choice, but really we're just reacting to the situation. You know, it's like I could tell when I'm like my 5-year-old behaving in a certain way. As this, I recognize him now and learn to love him the way he is right now. Recently, I've been watching these Star Wars cartoons, and it's like I could totally tell it's my like 14-year-old that's sitting in front of the TV watching these. It's you know, it's like I've actually I've been buying myself Lego and building those. You know, it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm making friends with my inner kids. They're starting to like me, and that's so important. That's to build a relationship and to hear. You know, have you ever had an emotion and you try and stifle it down because you don't want to have that emotion? Well, that's the same thing, the same kind of abuse that your kid had at the time. And it's us, it takes us to reparent ourselves and to welcome that part of us that has felt rejected or upset or whatever that experience is. You know, I spent 40 years trying to fix myself only to realize I wasn't broken, that there's nothing to fix. But that's what we do. We try to fix ourselves. Mm. And what really is needed is to notice and become present. Presence is the number one tool, I think. At least as what after all of the work that I've done, this is where I've gotten to is just returning to presence. And it's done through breath. And a breath that I've shown and demonstrated. You know, it's like we all breathe, right? It's like we need to learn how to breathe. Yeah, that's right. We all breathe every day, but we breathe up in our chest. A lot of us breathe very shallow. And we just breathe automatic because you can't stop it, you know, see how long you go without the breath. But conscious breathing, actually being there, breathing in through the nose, into your belly, way past your chest, into your belly, and exhaling through your mouth. This is a practice of the style of breathing, presence breath like that I've been practicing for over a year now. And I still catch myself holding my breath or breathing shallow. So it is a practice and so important because as we have life experiences and these emotions show up, they are showing up to be digested. It's undigested emotions that our inner children have had the experience of. That's why it's not just one inner child. We have different stages of growth, different traumas that have shown up at different times in their lives. And each one of those, so you may have hundreds, you may have thousands. And they start to resolve themselves as you start dealing with one at a time, then more and more resolution can come from being present, from feeling the emotions, and loving ourselves. And when we allow ourselves to really feel and be fully present, that's when these programs start to shift. That's when it's possible to reprogram. It just takes time and it takes slowing down. I have something I call the slow-mo button. Just press on my chest like this and take a deep breath just to slow down. You know, we weren't designed to live the kind of fast-paced, crazy, freaky bullshit life that we have going right now, where we're constantly bombarded with thousands upon thousands of advertisings every minute of every day, and the internet and the news and the what's going on and who's in power and who's doing what and what's doing where and all the stuff we have to do for our own personal lives, take care of the kids, both the inner ones and the outer ones, and go to work and make sure this is paid, make sure that's taken care of. It's just a never ending every single day. Press the slow-mo button, slow down, take a deep breath, just be present, be with yourself. You don't need willpower. Willpower is overrated and it doesn't hold anything constantly if you've got the childhood wounding programming going. You don't need to try harder, because that's just constant effort. And you give yourself permission to slow down. Once you see what's running you, though, once you start to understand, even though I've had certain stories that I've told about my past here, and I don't share those stories to say, oh, I'm still stuck in that. But every time I kind of go over it, and then I look at it from that inner child point of view, it gets better. It loosens up. It loosens up the story, and then all of a sudden, that's no longer running me as my programming. Because once you start to see it and bring awareness to it, that's when you can shift it. That's when I use tools like mind shifting. Yeah, so interesting thing. I had a new experience happen for me where in my Uber 3 months ago, this guy was in my Uber and he was talking with this girl that was with him, and they were talking about posting stuff on Instagram and whatnot. And I said, so what is it that you post? He says, oh, I do all this personal growth stuff, videos and reels for based on Carl Jung's work and all of that stuff. I said, oh, very interesting. Yeah, I've done like 40 years of personal growth and inner child work and all that. He says, oh, inner child work. Oh, I'd really like to know more about that and blah, blah, blah. Well, long story short, few months go by and he says how he wanted to have me as a guest speaker to his audience. So I did last Saturday, a week ago, or a week yesterday. And I got to speak to his audience. There was like 17 people online, and I spoke all about inner child work and some of the stuff I've shared today, but I went into some process and whatnot, and it was really well received. It was my first time doing something like that. So what that spawned is that every Monday now, from moving forward for the foreseeable future, I'm doing a free 1 hour, well, it won't necessarily always be an hour, but a free mind shifting session as a group online every Monday at 6 o'clock. So that is my own, like, it really what took something from me, like, didn't take something that didn't come out right. It's not like it took something from me, but it took something from me to step into that and to start feeling, because there was some inner child stuff coming up saying, not good enough, something's wrong, it's not safe. That was all coming up, and I had to breathe through that quite a few times. And then the session itself was great. It went really well. 2.5 hours. I didn't think it could go that long. It was like very, very a good stretch for me. And so now I'm stepping into my next phase of what I'm doing with the mind shifting. So you're welcome to join me if you would like. let me know. I'll put you on the list. I'll send you the link. It's a Zoom thing from 6 to 7. And yeah, you're welcome to join me with that. Yeah, just to kind of wrap up here, there's all kinds of tools that are available. Breathing really is the number one tool. And maybe just one other that I'll share is when things happen in your life and it's not what it is that you prefer, a real powerful tool is to ask, how is this benefiting me? How is this benefiting me? Because there's a silver lining when you start to regularly ask yourself, no matter what's going on in your life, how is this benefiting me? You'll start to see the answers and you'll start to find the ways in which everything in life is for your benefit. You could take it from like the alphabet, ABC, always. What was the word again? Just came to mind. Vaporware. That's what I call vaporware. It goes into the mind village. Assume benevolence constantly. Thank you. My brain work. There's ABC. Assume benevolence constantly. So, my friends and all of your children, I love you all. Thank you for coming today.